My name is David Lowery. I'm 38, I think. Yeah, 38, and I am from Dallas, Texas. The movie is called The Old Man, the Gun. It's a true story about a bank robber in the 80s who was extremely talented at what he was doing and also happened to be 70 years old. And so it is a quintessential Robert Redfod character, if ever there was one, and it's a project that he brought to me and that I developed with him over a number of years. I met Robert Redfod at Sundance, or right after the Sundance Film Festival in 2013 when I had a movie there, and he saw it and liked it and wanted to meet me. And so we met up a few weeks later, and I was incredibly nervous because I was meeting Robert Redfod, and we hit it off, and he liked me, he liked the film I had made, and we decided to collaborate on this project. And that was a good 4 years before we actually shot it. So in the meantime, I was working on other films, and I ended up making another movie with him first that he acted in, and then after that we finally got around to making The Old Man, the Gun. But yeah, the first time I met him was vis-a-vis Sundance, which is the whole reason I have a career, is because of the Sundance Film Festival. So I owe him a great deal for creating that. I love Sissy Spacek as an actress. She's like a phenomenal actor, and I selfishly just wanted to work with her. So I wrote the part for her and hoped that she would say yes, and thankfully she did. We made it was independently at first, and then we made it with Fox Searchlight, and then Amazon is distributing it in France. Every movie needs financing, and if that financing is coming from a company like Amazon or Netflix or Fox Searchlight or A24, any distributor, it doesn't necessarily change the fact that it's an independent movie. I think independence has more to do with the spirit in which the movie is made than the means by which it's made. I have no qualms about a movie that is financed or distributed by a company like Amazon or Searchlight being called an independent film. On the first film I made, I just sent the script out into the world, but I had a short list of actors who I was a fan of, actors who I liked and who I thought would be good for the film, and they were both at the top of it. I had been a fan of Casey's for years, because he'd been acting for years at that point. I think with that time period, Rooney had just done Social Network, and I thought she was amazing in that, and Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, I think, had just opened. And we met up, and we all liked each other, and they agreed to do the film. And as is the case with any creative collaboration, when you meet someone who you get along with and who you collaborate well with, it just makes sense to just keep that going and to make more films with them. I do that with everybody, whether they're in front of or behind the camera. And we like the same things. We're all easygoing. We enjoy being in each other's company. We're all vegan, so it's easy to eat lunch together. And it just was a fun and productive collaboration. So it was only natural to just find more films to make with them. Yeah, we talk about it. We've definitely said every 5 years we should make another movie in Texas together. That will be 2 years from now. It'll be 5 years since A Ghost Story. So I need to start writing something. There are certainly differences. I mean, you can just tell from watching the movie that there are differences, but they're not so large as to define the experience. Every movie is challenging in its own way, and it has its own ups and downs, and that's true no matter what scale the film is. At the end of the day, when you're making a movie, it comes down to you and the actors and the camera, and whether you're shooting for 10 days or 100 days, that's still the intrinsic process of making a film, and that doesn't change. So the differences aren't that astronomical in the grand scheme of things, but certainly there are, on A Ghost Story we could never have afforded half the things we had on Pete's Dragon, but does that get in the way of telling the story? No, because A Ghost Story didn't need those things, and that was fine. So every movie has its own needs, and you just scale the movie appropriately for what it needs. and some movies need a studio to back them because there's no other way to get them made. And that comes with its own, complications and its own benefits, but it really just changes from project to project, but the actual process of making the film is pretty consistent. A ghost story, because I was the only person making it, I definitely had director's cut on that. With the one I just finished shooting, I think for the first time I contractually have director's cut, but every film I've made has been pretty indicative of my intent. I've never had a point where I've had to give up something or do something because that I didn't want to do. I've worked with collaborators and partners who are very respectful of my intentions, and as a result, even though I don't have final cut on a contractual sense, the movie still reflects what I set out to do. I've been making films with my friends for almost 20 years now, since I got out of high school, and at a certain point we were like, we just need a name. We need a name because we have to open a bank account. It's not really a company, it's just the name under which we operate, so that when we do things officially we can say that this is a Sailor Bear production, but it's a pretty far cry from a company. It's a group of friends who like to make movies together, and we just keep on doing that. We're not financing things. We don't have the money to do that, but as an entity, we just like to work together, and so by having a quote-unquote company, it allows us to just stick together, and people respect that, and we still have to go through the normal route of getting, sending our scripts to financiers and getting them to approve of them, and it's easier now than it used to be because we've made movies that people like, but it hasn't changed that part of the process. I decided I was going to make movies when I was 7 years old, so it was so long ago now. I mean, that's 30 years ago, so I don't know how to do anything else. This is the only thing I've ever wanted to do, and I'm doing it. And I feel very lucky that I'm able to do that for a living. The best part of it for me, I don't know, it's a art form that has so many, it's a real roller coaster because it's really hard and it's incredibly exciting, and there's an adrenaline rush attached to it, and there's highs and lows, and the lows get really low and the highs get really high, and at the end of every movie I think, I'm never doing that again, I'm retiring, I'm done, it's not worth it. And then of course I do it again 6 months later. So if I were to say what my favorite part is, I love editing. That's my favorite part of filmmaking. That's the favorite, but that's just part of it. I like all of it. I like the parts that I hate just as much as I like the parts that I love. Other directors prefer being on set. I'm being on set's great, but I like editing. But I like all of it. There's days on set where I just want to be anywhere but on the set. I would rather be at home. I would rather be, doing anything other than directing the movie. But that's just part of directing, and I've masochistically grown to enjoy the awful days as much as I enjoy the good days. I'm always, I never stop. I guess the benefit of doing something you love is that it doesn't feel like work, even when you're working really hard. So I'm editing the movie we just finished shooting. It's called The Green Knight, and it's a medieval movie, and that's all I'll say about it. I'm still figuring it out. And I'm writing a couple new things, and one of them I'm sure will be my next film. I don't know what it will be yet, but I just keep writing until the script feels ready to be made, and then I'm like, okay, let's make this one, and hopefully that will be within the next year, because I'm trying to keep a movie per year pattern going, and we'll see if I'm lucky enough to keep doing that.